very first thing that I'm going to ask is if each of you can give a short 2 to 3 minute summary of who you are, what you do, and after that introduction, we're going to go back to have actually a general conversation about what some ideas are that might actually get us to grow the creative economy through art and technology. I'm going to go alphabetically, and I'm going to start with you, Tema Balducci.
Okay, yeah, I'm Tema Balducci. I am I'm a professor of art history and also chair of the Department of Art and Design at Arkansas State.
Oh, wow. Arkansas State again. Oh boy. Okay. I should not be doing an editorial bunch of comments, but I'm really excited that you're here. Okay.
So what are you talking about, Shelley? I'm the second person from Arkansas State.
Well, actually, Jill Carey's with the museum.
Oh, and Jill, yes.
Jill Laurent is
right. So yeah.
Yesterday.
We can dominate, right?
Dr. Baya Tacharia. So yes, this is actually thrilling. This is incredibly exciting. This is goosebumps time. Hello, Brooke. She is joining us, and Brooke is both an Arkansans for the Arts board member, and she's going to have to give her title because it's far too elaborate for me. But in the interim, so Tema's with the Department of Art at ASU. I'm going to go to Shelley. If you could.
Am I on there? Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Shelley Gibson. I'm a professor of art in printmaking at Arkansas State University. And I have always used the computer as a tool. And I'm very excited to maybe bring some low-end tech ideas into the play, and not just the flashy new stuff, but also the die-hard, tried and true elements, connecting printmaking specifically, but art in general. And I'm here to help facilitate in any way I can.
Phenomenal. I wish I was in Jonesboro right now. Jill, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Jill Carey. I'm from the Arkansas State University Museum, and I've made myself a great big long page of things to talk about, but I will bring those up during the meeting. It's really good to be here with y'all.
I'm going to jump in here for Jill for a moment here, because Arkansas State University Museum is one of the original Arkansas Discovery Network partners. And there was a whole lot of art and technology intersections that were going on with that. And it's actually the petri dish that all of this has grown out of. I'm now going to shift to you, Jeanette Larson. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeanette Larson. I'm the craft director at the Ozark Folk Center State Park. And our mission here at the park, we interpret the living culture of the Ozarks. As the craft director, I work with our artisans, and they are very rooted in tradition, and yet they're always looking for new ways to make things better. Our blacksmith is currently exploring induction forging so that he can actually do his work during the summer without heat. So a lot of people think we're a living history museum, and we're absolutely not. So it's very much a living culture, and we have working artisans who teach and take apprentices, and we have a printmaking apprentice. So I'm really excited to talk to Shelley, because we have a phenomenal printmaking apprentice who's combining both technology and 100-year-old letterpress in what she's putting out. And it's just really interesting. And I love being here, and I'd love to share this. And I love being able to share this with all of you and see what all you're doing. So.
And I'm going to jump in here also. Jeanette also happens to be a weaver herself. And so she, in addition to corralling all of the artisans, she herself is an artisan. And Jeanette, don't you even raise the critters?
I do. We raise Jacob sheep. Yeah, I'm a shepherd, spinner, and weaver, and have been for more than 40 years. So,
Dr. Laurent has joined the call, and can you just introduce yourself, Brooke?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Brooke Loren. I'm osteopathic family medicine doc, also a board member of Arkansas for the Arts, and the chair for the Department of Clinical Medicine at NYIT College of Osteopathic Medicine, and the executive director for the Delta Population Health Institute. It's the community engagement arm for the medical school, and representing this part of Arkansas here. And I'm really excited that Dr. Balducci was able to come in to this meeting as well. And I'll let her introduce herself as the department chair for Professor Art History, the Department of Art Design at A-State, but I'll let her introduce herself as well. I'm happy that she's here on this call. And yeah, happy to be with everyone today.
Yeah, good to see you. It's been a while.
Yes, it has been a while, and the last time we spoke was pre-pandemic, and
I
we're
know.
back. We're back again.
Good old days. I know.
Yeah. Okay, great.
I'm going to momentarily pretend that I'm Dr. Abhijit Bhattacharya, who is the inaugural dean of the College of Engineering and Computer Science at Arkansas State University. He wanted to be on this call. He was traveling. Actually, the truth is I spied upon his credentials and went, oh my gosh, I've got to talk to this guy. And so he and I Zoomed yesterday. We had a phenomenal conversation. He mentioned, by the way, all of y'all at ASU, because apparently as soon as he got there, he went to the College of Arts and Humanities, spoke with them. So he's got this whole art thing and combining. Jill, you're nodding yes, because he said that he knows you guys over at the museum. Dr. Allen, who is with Jill at the museum, has been working with Dr. Bhattacharya. So we've got this exciting petri dish here. Now, Brooke Shield, Dr. Laurent, has been for the last couple of years at the intersection of arts and health and wellness, which was very interesting in 2018-19, and pivoted to absolutely, it's not an exaggeration to say life-saving after we all entered the pandemic, because I, for one, cannot even imagine my life without Netflix and without Zoom and without all of the technologies that, quite frankly, have saved my sanity. And so that doesn't even get into what I would call the hardcore intersections of art and wellness. I'm going to first say, instead of using the word art, much as I love that word, let's think in terms of creativity, because we leave a lot of people out of the conversation who think, well, if it's art, they must only be talking about paintings. And we have a far broader definition. So like when Jeanette was talking about the blacksmith, and by the way, I happened to be there last week and I saw him working at that induction thing, etc., and was absolutely mesmerized by the fact that he could work in 100-degree heat and didn't have the furnace going next to him.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was a fabulous innovation. Yes. What I want to do, though, is actually open it up to all of you to hear from you. And if we know that money's an object, of course, we know that broadband is a divide that I'm hoping is going to be surmounted at some point, but right now it is certainly an issue. So aside from money and aside from broadband access, what in your field of endeavor or in your intersections with other fields of endeavor, and that's why it's so exciting to have so many different areas of Arkansas State University on this call, what would you dream of for the future in your area? Open the floor. Jump in, all you creative people.
I hope that Arkansas State could become a creative hub in NEA, so that if a person in industry was looking for a particular creative venue, creative outlet, creative anything, they would think of us. And I think it would be more than a makerspace or more than. So getting all of these intersections, not just in NEA, but across Arkansas, that we could start making connections with business, making connections with engineering and nursing and all of these other things, and just making ourselves known as this place where arts and technology, creative thinking happens.
I love the idea of Creative Hub, Shelley. That resonated because I was going to say, I would love to find a way. I have master artisans, most of them with decades of experience, and they're getting older. And they want to pass it on. They want to connect with people who want to come learn this. They want to share. And we have a hard time connecting, even, we're the Department of Parks, and even in the Parks and Heritage and Tourism, it's just people don't think of us as a place to come learn problem-solving skills, learn all this have this creative opportunity. So
I appreciate the word skill in that too, because that is the one thing everybody's like, oh, it's an art, but actually it's a skill and it can translate into so many different things. I immediately thought about apprenticeships. We can do internships, workshops even. So there could be some back and forth. That would be fantastic.
yeah.
One of the things that I'm currently involved in, I'm on the Gen Ed, General Education Task Force, where we're trying to kind of rethink Gen Ed, and I'm on the specific subcommittee on creativity and problem solving. And I'm trying to get this class that we teach in our department. The graphic designers actually teach it. It's called ideation. And it basically just teaches students how to think outside the box and how to think creatively so that you can apply those skills in a lot of different areas, not just specifically to the arts. So I'm trying to get that class accepted into the Gen Ed curriculum so that any student can take it and really, it wouldn't necessarily be required, but it would be in a list of options within that subset called creativity and problem solving. And I just think that's such a great idea to get people or students from across the campus involved in this creative thinking, right? This kind of thinking you can apply to all kinds of different areas. That does force students to use their creativity. And like Shelley said, to realize that it's a skill, right? You're not born knowing how to draw. I mean, I guess a few people are, but most of us are not, right? But it is a skill that you can learn. And people don't really realize that.
Yeah.
I think to that point, what is it, 10,000 hours? So the idea that somehow some people are gifted, and then if you put in 10,000 hours at anything, eventually, at least you'll be able.
Yes.
Maybe you're not as fabulous as a Da Vinci, but the fact is that you can contribute something toward that discipline.
Right.
How on earth who came up with this idea of a creativity and problem solving class?
The creativity and problem solving is one of the themes that we're thinking about adding for Gen Ed. The class itself that I'm talking about is called ideation. And I think it's a pretty typical class that's taught in a lot of art departments, just teaching students how to approach problems creatively, right? How to generate ideas, how to spur their creativity. I just happen to think it's a class that can be applied outside the arts to all kinds of disciplines. So I think it'd be important for all students to have exposure to that. I think it should be required, for every student to take, but unfortunately I'm not the boss, so.
Well, then that would be a great shift, wouldn't it, if you were?
Yes, yes.
Quite honestly, one of the things that we consistently talk about at the Act 577 with the legislators, this level and all these conversations is always the problem solving.
Yes.
Because let's face it, none of us ever have what we need. We are always having to pivot, make do. I don't have that. What can I use instead? And it's a constant exercise in creative thinking and creative problem solving.
Yes.
That in an instance like the pandemic, is why all these arty creative people came up with all these different solutions, because we're so used to thinking way outside the box because we never have the resources we need. I am not advocating for starvation of resources. However, it is a great skill. That is incredibly exciting to hear. Shelley, you hit on something when you said low tech printing, because I think that is critically important, that this conversation is not just about whether or not you have the perfect software or the perfect piece of technology or the perfect anything, because it really is a thought process and it really is cross collaborations. Who else would like to jump in there?
Well, I think that I like the idea of the low tech. One of the things that we do here at the museum is, especially with art teachers, and we've done an art teacher workshop called Painting with Spices. So what do you do if you're at home and if you don't have the money to go out and buy expensive paints? You look in your spice cabinet and you pull out anything that can make deep color, and you start with that and you mix it with water, and there you have a dye that can be used as a watercolor. And we actually have done this with kids. We've done this with art teachers. We have done this with A-State students who have come to us just to have a unique kind of art experience. So we also will teach art students how to use technology like a makey to make their art come alive, to make sound, to turn it into a musical instrument, to take conductive clay to make a sculpture and to make that sculpture make sound. So, there's all kinds of things that you can do just with simple technology. And even a very, very low tech technology is like spices, for example, in water. Doesn't cost hardly anything to do things like that. But just to share these things, to be open to, coming up with your own ideas and then putting those out there to other folks, I think that's really good. And I'm always open to new things. I visited Shelley's shop, and she spent a whole day with us one day just doing printing, and that was a really fun day for me. I'm just telling you. And actually, I've incorporated some printing in what we do in the tinkering studio, so it's really great. But yeah, so however we can share with each other, I think this is good.
Jill, what are you currently doing in the tinkering studio? For others that are on the call that aren't familiar, the Arkansas Discovery Network placed tinkering studios in each of the 7 partner museums. Some of them, if you were on the call last week, maybe from, was it Hot Springs, the fellow that was there that talked about the Raspberry Pi and the Arduino. We had the Arduinos and Crickets, but what are you doing in the tinkering studio now?
Well, you'll be pleased to know that we have a loom.
Nice.
And our gallery technician used to be my job out there. She actually she does the whole weaving. She takes wool from someone's sheep that she knows and will turn that into yarn, and then she knows how to weave, and she teaches kids how to weave. They will take that loom and actually work back there. We have drawing the cartoon characters to make a little film for yourself, stop motion film. We of course have all of the recyclable materials where kids can build or make anything they want. They love to make flying machines and put those into the wind tunnel and watch it fly. Watch their thing fly or not, and if it doesn't, what happened? How are you going to fix that? What's it going to look like? That sort of thing. So yeah, all kinds of stuff like that, and we're always bringing in different things to do too. So I mean, I could talk all day about what we're doing in the tinkering studio, because we change up weekly, just because we want to do something different, so we'll pull something else in there. Right now we have some new 3D pens, and so we're going to let some of the kids on Saturday play with the 3D pens and do sculptures. that they can carry home in their pockets, but they have to be real creative with those things. And it's a skill. I mean, oh, what do you do when that thing starts drawing? Okay, so I'm going to draw in the air. That's really cool. So they're drawing in the air, doing whatever they want. So it's really kind of interesting.
Yesterday in my conversation with Dr. Bhattacharya, he emphasized something really similar to what Shelley had said about Arkansas State University being a hub for really all of these intersections of art and technology. With Dr. Laurent on the call, I would certainly add lifelong health and wellness in there, et cetera. So Jeanette, apologies that we're so heavy on ASU for the moment, but come along for the ride, because my question is going to be, I mean, how realistic and how could something at ASU or in Jonesboro be implemented?
That's the question.
We always have Tinker Fair here at the museum, and we want as many collaborators as possible, people just coming and setting up and doing their own thing during Tinker Fair. And we always have at least 1,000 people show up. And recently we started having what we called STEM Fest or STEAM Fest in October that coincides with the Arkansas Science Festival. And that thing has sort of exploded. The last time we had, before COVID, the last time we had STEAM Fest, there were 950 that came through. I know, I wasn't expecting it. None of us were, but buses after buses after, they just kept coming and dropping the kids off with their adults, and they were streaming across campus. Not only were they at the museum, but they were at other places all over campus, including NYIT, including the biosciences, the chemistry department. They were going up and doing all kinds of things in these departments. And everyone, we were on the same page. We had met several times as a committee. We knew what we were all doing. And our museum, we had the most space, so we opened it up to anybody who wanted to show up with their table. and we ended up having, probably, I don't know, 35 people show up with their things, and I was putting them in every corner possible. Some of them I didn't know were coming. They just came, and I'm like, okay, go get in the tent, whatever. And so anyway, it turned out really well. And I think if we just continue to do things like that together, we can even plan more, even something in the spring to have on campus or in our own departments, and invite people to come and visit all over campus, just like STEMfest we do. So something like that, we could collaborate together, and the Ozark Folk Center could be invited. I mean, people off campus are invited to come and bring what they do to us. And so,
that'd be awesome, except October is one of our busiest months, and so
well, I mean,
we're really anchored here.
It could be something in the spring. It could be in the summer. In the summer when we have Tinker Fair, Tinker Fair with an E. So
midwinter is when we're slow and closed, and so midwinter is when we can get out and do things with other organizations. From April to October, we're stuck here, which is great.
Sometimes between, like, in the first of the year, maybe.
Yeah, January, February, March, we teach a lot in March. We do folk school, and so we're doing a lot of teaching in March. But January and February, as long as the weather permits, we're happy to go do things.
I think that if we were to, if other places also would do things like this and put it out there for everyone to come, I think that you can take your own ideas and put them out to the community, and kids will leave knowing things.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard to pry the kids out of the fiber arts shop here. They just come hook up on that loom, and parents can leave them for the whole day because they just want to weave. So, yeah.
Brooke, is there anything that you could jump in with?
Yeah, so, and I'm coming in a little bit later on, so if I'm being redundant, please forgive me. And if I get pulled by my nurse for something, please forgive me as well. So out of curiosity, Jill, you said that NYIT, you had students coming to NYIT building, and I wasn't aware of that. What were they doing in our building?
I'm not sure. No, you had Dr. Okay, Alan. Is that ring a bell? No, not Alan. I'm trying to think of his name now. It's okay. It escapes me. But
Okay.
he actually came to our meetings, and he had things that he planned all through your building. And kids would come, and there would be folks posted to take them around to the different areas of your building, and they were like, they had some hands-on stuff for kids to do.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, he had it all worked out, and he said at the end, we sort of had a decompress kind of thing, and he said it got crazy.
Yeah.
There for a while. He said because some of the groups were coming and they were not supposed to be there yet, and it's just kind of got crazy. But he said it all worked out, and they ended up having a pretty good day with the kids of the community, and it was great.
Well, that's awesome. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who could that be, but I will say that, we do a lot of community engagements with K through 12. We have a program called a SHARE program, and we have students from K through 12 who get mentorship with our students, with students in the community, just an introduction to health and wellness and the sciences. And not everyone wants to go into healthcare. Not everyone wants to be a doctor. We just want them to have exposure to different thoughts and industries, et cetera. So what excites me about this conversation and the opportunities that we already have also an audience with K through 12 with the school system here locally. And if we can bring this intersection of art and tech and science and wellness, there is something there for sure. So that's where I'm curious, what I'm curious about. We have longstanding programs with a local magnet school here where our students act as mentors around the discussions of health and wellness, but they don't only talk about health and wellness. Really, it's a mentorship program. And sometimes the students are like, hey, they're not really interested in the sciences. We only want to increase literacy, but expose them to other industries. They would love to learn, and know our students, medical students who are mentoring the students who are in K through 12. If there's a tool or formula we can offer to augment that that relationship and that program, that would be great as well. So that's what I can add to that component of that conversation. So
if I can think of his name at any point during this, I'll say it out.
Sure.
Okay.
So Brooke, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm going to because so often I get the feedback that how could art and health and wellness possibly intersect?
Oh yeah.
So
the thing, yeah, it's already happening, and it's not a new concepts. I'll just say, let's say we're talking purely medical education. There's things called narrative medicine. There's also something called under the realm of narrative medicine, there's a component where you're teaching students how to draw and create comic books as a way to navigate mental health issues while going through medical school. And I think the University of Penn or Pitt has a specific department in their medical school where they're teaching students how to use the arts, how to address mental health illnesses, just mental health wellness and resilience in their training, which is a plus because what they're filled with can be a good byproduct for the way they provide care for their patients. So those things are already happening. I'll be more than happy to share with the group where that's happening. There are medical journals that have section where they have medicine and the arts or medicine and poetry. So there's actually poetry in our medical journal that have reflective pieces on how it is to provide care, what healthcare professionals are experiencing, and using that modality to be reflective and build mental health resilience as well. Those things are there. And then you have professionals who are in healthcare settings who are helping patients in the area of rehabilitation, who have experienced trauma, traumatic brain injuries, who are walking alongside healthcare professionals in music, in the arts, in creative arts, to help in their rehabilitation process as well. And there's a National Association for Arts and Wellness and Sciences that I did a presentation on, where they're working on getting these professionals to have, some of them are accredited, some of them are not, but to get actual training, continued training in this space. So it's there. It's not as prevalent as it should be, but those are some of the aspects that I can contribute.
Well, and that's how we met, right? Talking
Yep,
about the
that's right.
possibility of adding art therapy.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well,
That's
and
exactly it.
I can add another. I teach a general education class, just like it's called Fine Arts Visual. It's an art, it's like a survey of art history from prehistoric to the present for the non-major. And I've started teaching it specifically to students in nursing and health professions, and focusing on building their observation skills,
Yep.
like breaking them up into groups and having them really closely analyze paintings and things like that. Taking them over to the Bradbury and having them look in person. And I got a lot of, that's actually, as you probably know, a really popular, or not popular, but it's taught in a lot of medical schools. So the syllabus that I got, I actually got a syllabus from several universities, but one was from UAB. I think another one was from Harvard, and just kind of, collated a lot of their ideas and information and came up with my own syllabus. Last semester was the first time that I taught that. So I'm really excited to kind of use what I learned last semester and apply it this semester again.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Wow. So one of the things, my Netflix salvation had I don't even know what it was, but it was the MIT design department, and kind of how it came about. And it was all these, well, they called themselves misfit, but it was a combination of artists and scientists and engineering people. I mean, they were just basically all there, and they were there to create. That their job was to simply cross-pollinate and see what they could come up with. A lot of people thought it was a waste of time. For example, one of the things that they created was the touch screen. And at the time, people were like, what do you need a touch screen for? Who's going to want to touch their computer screen? So, I mean, we look at stuff like that now and go, ha, 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 ha. I mean, we're used to it. And so I have to say that since I saw that particular movie last week, I've been thinking what would be the perfect Petri dish that was just to get people in the room without a specific outcome, but to have that creative juice and opportunity. And I've got to say, this moment is so close to that because the intersections are so unusual. This is not the typical conversation. We did have someone in the last focus group mention his dream would be basically the United States as a society that took care of the whole person and thought about the whole wellness lifelong, which really gripped many of us, especially those of us that are on the aging part of the spectrum, in terms of what that would look like if we genuinely thought about the whole person for their whole life and their wellness, mental wellness, creative wellness, their physical wellness. And we have right here before us this group of people that are either hard in the trenches with that or are dabbling in it. And so I'm now going to ask you, if it truly was a huge idea like that, how do you get, like, for the moment, forget about the kids, forget about K through 12, forget about your deans, bosses, chancellors, etc. What would that look like? Jump in.
Well, I'll say that there is an opportunity. So one of the things we are doing, and A-State is doing this too, is in the space of interprofessional collaboration. Usually when we talk about interprofessional education collaboration, it's only within the healthcare team members. And we want to transcend that into multiple disciplines. So it's not just people who are specific to healthcare. I think that could be a starting place where we have these disciplines coming together. I know if I were to pull out a call to my medical students, of anyone who's interested to just be in this thought experiment, they would jump at it immediately. I mean, it wouldn't be a big call. Like they would like, yeah, this is super interesting. So I have students who are in that space because they don't just want to talk about medicine all the time. But they're so intrigued to see how all these intersections can come together. So I'm going to start there. I mean, we're all connected to some form of education there. So I think that would probably just a starting space with what if we expand interprofessional education collaboration beyond the healthcare team. Just a thought.
I have done in the past a campus-wide open sort of meeting for anyone interested in doing cross-disciplinary teaching. It was fairly popular. It was connected to the curriculum committee, so I'm no longer on that, but perhaps just some sort of even more open beyond our borders sort of thing, that we could just do what we're doing now and get together and talk. I don't know if we come up with an acronym or something and just have this monthly, perhaps, sort of thing going on so that we can make these connections and get these things like off the ground without having to have any sort of physical space or grant money or any of that sort of thing.
And outside of the education realm too, I think about our visitors, and we connect with people who come from mostly this region, but just all over. And for whatever reason, a lot of them come because we're a park. And then they see different options and different creativity, and they're fascinated. And it's a different way than some people who are actively seeking learning. We see people who are not looking for learning, and yet they find this. And I don't know how it fits right now, but that's.
Would these people be interested in joining such a group or giving back or
Some of them, yeah, some of them would. Some of them would. That connection would appeal to them. We're just talking out there, but I'm thinking of getting it outside of just the academic realm and into the community in some way.
Yeah, and I want to echo that. I am a huge proponent of getting out of our academic, beyond our own silos, but separating academic to community stuff. So we are, one of the work that we're doing, the Delta Population Health Institute, is putting that upside its head. Like the resources of academic institutions can be used to leverage our community engagement. And so I'm a huge proponent of that. If there's a way we can get it in a language and interest that all folks, and when I say interprofessional, and I think the professional kind of throws it out, we need all stakeholders at the table to discuss this as the people who are the recipient, consumer, patient, et cetera. So I'm a huge proponent of that. And I think you'll probably get a lot more creative stuff that way too, so.
So how do we do that? How do we get in touch with these people to get them in this same space? Zoom? Is everybody, I know we know Zoom, but.
Well, you have your community radio, community breakfast that Fox does on Wednesdays, just to get the word out about Tinker Fair and Tinker Fest. I've gone on the radio, and you get 5 minutes to chat with the fella, and everybody in Jonesboro knows what you're doing. I've gone to KLEK and did the same thing. I've been on TV with Diana Davis doing the same thing. You get on where everybody's listening or watching, and that's where you put yourself and you tell about this and invite people to come. Tell them it's free. And I think that if you make it worth their while, I mean, we're not going to pay anybody, but just tell them that, you know, if they'll enjoy it, they'll learn something. You know, they might be interested enough to come out.
So does anybody else want to either jump in on that particular topic or any other big dreams or ideas that you could envision for the future?
A website with all of this information linked would be fantastic. It could be even something that we send, it's a statewide thing. Wouldn't that be awesome?
So here's the next steps that are going to happen. Today are the last of our focus groups for all of the arts districts. And as Sandy touched on, Act 577 is actually, think of it like a legislative meeting. With COVID, I have no idea what it's actually going to look like or how many there are going to be. This is all of the advanced research for those meetings. And all of the comments that we have been listening to for the last couple of months, all of those big ideas, you know, we're literally going to sit down and go, wow, what really struck you? What really looks like something, you know, that could impact the creative economy? What really can resonate, because it's both creative economy and enhancing quality of life. So it's a big bucket, and yet it is not easy to accomplish. But if you look at these conversations and you actually learn about the things that are going on around the state, it's mind-boggling, the people that we've met and the work that's going on. So we're going to pull those big ideas. They're going to become part of the report, if you will, to the legislators and the meetings with the legislators. I personally, I'm not the final vortex through which ideas are going to pass, but I have to tell you, this idea of the interprofessional collaborations seems to be resonating all over the place. The fact that your College of Engineering and Computer Science, the fact that they're at your university, you have these people that are seriously interested in working with other people. I haven't heard anything that said, this is my silo, I'm protecting my silo, I only want my silo. Everybody is absolutely, let's work with other people, and not only work with other people at the university, but how can we expand this out into our immediate sphere of influence, and I'm assuming the state or beyond. And so it's an incredibly exciting moment just to know that there's this many people that are in each of your individual realms and experts in your realms that would actually enjoy pursuing working with other people to expand some of these ideas. And I could imagine if we can bring engineering and computer science into it, that spark of technology that could be brought to the table, and me expressing Dr. Bhattacharya's same desire to work with people, to introduce younger people to the campus, etc. So if anybody else wants to jump in with anything, either on our board or our guests, jump in now. Or
Shelley, I just wanted to pick up on your comment. One of the products that's going to come out of the legislation in the boot camps is our Candidates for the Arts is assigned with compiling an inventory and a database. And if we can get the state to fund it, you know, or somebody to fund it, a website would be absolutely part of that plan. We're hearing that loud and clear, that people want connections. They want connections like, you know, like crazy. And I think that's where the spark of innovation is going to come. That's also where the pressure from their constituents is going to come, that they will have to pay attention when there's activity going on like that. And then it's incumbent upon all of us to keep feeding them that information. Even if they get sick of hearing it, we need to kind of flood them with that information and what's going on in the progress that's being made, particularly along the interdisciplinary. I think that's brilliant. I have two questions, if I can, Lenore. One for Jeanette. You are steeped in tradition in that hands-on learning. Where do you see technology fitting into your world? And do you see a use for technology as a tool to extend your world out to other people that don't have access?
Very much so. As part of the pandemic, a lot of our craftspeople became more linked on the internet. They started selling on the internet. We now have people who have really expanded their sales and their online sales to the point that they're having trouble making enough product. But they've also explored teaching. And they've explored doing YouTube videos, doing Facebook videos. But there is a limit to that. There's, you know, you can only show so much virtually before you go, if I could just touch your hands, I could show you what we're doing. So we're still looking for better technology.
That's the hook back. Yeah.
But
That's
we're
the
making,
hook back to the school.
yeah. We're making connections with people who are not necessarily looking for traditional learning. Their interest comes from, oh, I'm stuck at home and I've got to do something. And so suddenly they want to know how to spin yarn. They want to know how to, my stained glass artist is one of the artisans who's done more teaching online this past year than any of the rest of us. And so that has become a part of what we do. And it's a wonderful piece that we're still learning more about.
Yeah, and learning from the master artisans is so critical.
Mhm.
And with, hand-eye and the motor skills and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
The other question I have is for those of you at ASU. What are some of the barriers, the obstacles that would prevent any movement forward at the university level?
Well, you mean other than budget?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, the administration is usually fairly supportive of new initiatives and ideas. So really, I mean, honestly, it's just the budget, I think.
Yeah, I think we're sitting on, I don't mean this in a monetary sense. I think we're sitting on treasures right now. And I think these conversations are what needs to get out the way, so that, these barriers need to get out the way. So, just knowing what we're doing and having these opportunities to connect is what is going to be helpful. So I agree on the NYT side, the initiatives we're pretty supportive as well for our administration. So I think we need to run into a bump to find out what the issue may be.
I've got a question. Go ahead, Sandy.
Go ahead.
On the money, I know that at the universities, when you apply for a grant, there's a substantial percentage that stays with the university, and then some of the percentage goes to your department. If, for example, there was a fairy godmother who said, all right, you've got 10 grand to go ahead and have this convening of whatever it is, this brilliance that you've talked about today. Would you actually get to have the 10 grand, or does the 40% need to go to the grant department and you would get 6,000?
I would say it depends for NYIT. It depends.
But
And
there are admin costs.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, a gift is much easier to process than a grant. So sponsors would be easier. And I so regret saying this. I have to run off to my next patient. So I apologize,
Yes.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was great seeing everyone. Take care. I can't wait for our
Good
next
seeing you,
steps.
Brooke.
Okay, bye everyone.
I brought that up because, having been at the university, that was an interesting nugget that she said before she said goodbye. Gifts and sponsorships could make something happen, as opposed to going through the traditional grant structure, because we have no idea what's going to become of the final product, but we know that at some point there's going to have to be money attached to some of these ideas, and formulating at this point how that would be structured is very important. Typically we would use a word like the word grant, that I'm now going to switch to a word like grant for sponsors, etc. Sandy, were you going to elaborate on something?
I just wanted to share a art and health and mental health story that's personal to me. My god kid, one of my god kids, is the nurse medical director at KU Med Center in Kansas City. And she has like 150 direct reports. And she had 2 kids, no problem. She had the 3rd kid in her early 40s, had problems, and then suffered from postmortem. She went to therapy. They recommended her doing some kind of a hobby, a skill or something. She never did any of that. She's now starting her own woodworking studio. She's built tables, doors, taken classes at a craft school and an art school, and she's happier than she's ever been in her life. And, you know, to me, that whole intersection of mental health, or just, you know, just depression or whatever it might be, or recovering from surgery or an illness, you know, it speaks volumes to me on what the potential is there. So I think there are a lot of stories out there like that.
Yep.
So if you need a table or anything like that, she's built walls. She's crazy.
Cool.
I feel like I want to touch on that just a second, on that, the idea of a sponsorship, because I would like to bring business into this.
Yes.
Because that's one of the links I think is missing. And we talk a lot about retention and graduation and the soft skills that students need and business say that they aren't getting. And this is a place we could help with that at the minimum.
Yeah, I totally agree, Shelley. And what I wanted to bring in, you know, my artisans here at the Ozark Folk Center State Park are independent business people who contract with the park. And granted, they have the support of Arkansas Department of Parks and the state in some ways, but they have to make their own living. They don't get grants. They're scrounging for ways to make a living, and that's how they come up with the teaching. That's how they come up. That's why they go out and, you know, come up with an online store. And so let's maybe look to the business side of it and the creativity that's involved in business. And let's look for some of that too.